The theme for this morning is guilt and remorse. While remorse is not a word that is used in the Course, I feel it's a helpful term, especially the way that I'll be describing it, that is the counterpoint to the ego's guilt. So we'll spend this little talk talking about guilt and remorse. When we think of guilt, it's obviously going hand in hand with sin. I believe I've done something wrong, and that makes me wrong, and that's what the experience of guilt is. In fact, we could define guilt as being the sum total of all the thoughts and feelings of self-hate that we have, all the negative thoughts and feelings that we have about ourselves, feelings of inadequacy, of failure, being inferior, being sinful. And it's not only that we're guilty over things we have done, the core of this guilt is that we are inherently guilty, we are inherently sinful. And the problem with guilt is not only the pain of the experience itself, but within guilt one finds the means for self-perpetuating, or perpetuating that guilt, the self-perpetuation of all these negative thoughts about ourselves. Because guilt is so horrific and horrendous an experience that, as the Course tells us, it blinds us. Not only it blinds us, and it is blinding. Right? It is blinding because we don't see the truth, and it blinds us because we don't realize ultimately that we even have a mind that is the home of guilt. Guilt is so horrific, once again, that all we can do is try to deny that it's there, what Freud referred to as repression. And once we repress something or push it down in our minds, we inevitably and invariably must push it out. And that's what projection is. One cannot have projection without repression. One cannot have repression without projection. They go hand in hand. Actually, just that's why sin and guilt do. That when we believe we are sinful and we feel guilt over that, again, the guilt is something that is so intolerable for us. It's so painful. Because the ultimate meaning of guilt is not only that I've destroyed love and innocence, but I will never get it back. I mean, that's the horrendous thought of what guilt is. And so we can't deal with that guilt, and so what we do is we try to get rid of it, and we put it out onto other people. But all that does is reinforce the guilt, what we could think of as the guilt attack cycle. I feel guilty. I have to repress the guilt and then project it out. And when I project it out, I'm attacking, and which only makes me feel guiltier because on some level I realize that my guilt is unfounded. Excuse me, my attack is unfounded and unjustified. And that just reinforces the guilt that I've just tried to get rid of, and we just go around and around this very vicious circle. And so guilt is perpetuating. Right? Another way to look at guilt, that it roots us in the past, because guilt is predicated on the belief that I've sinned, I've sinned in the past. Remember, the ego tells us that linear time is real, and that there is a past, present, and future. In the ego world, past being the home of sin, I've sinned in the past, guilt being the awful, terrible feelings I have right now in the present, what I think of as the present, that I then project into the future that tells me I will be punished. So sin, guilt, and fear is past, present, and future, i.e. Linear time. And so guilt roots me in the past. And the worst of all is that guilt ensures that I will continue to act out and sin, which is the very root of my guilt. Another way of understanding that vicious circle. Guilt says that I deserve, that I must get rid of the guilt and attack other people in this very maladaptive way of escaping from it. But all that does is reinforce the very guilt that roots me in the past and ensures that I'll continue and continue and continue to feel guilty and project. And there's no way out of that very, very vicious circle. Enter remorse. When we get finally thoroughly disgusted with our guilt and how we are living, and we throw up our hands and say there must be another way, there must be another teacher, there must be another thought system, that's the invitation that Jesus has been waiting for. And he enters, or basically we enter into his right-minded space. And he then teaches us, yes, we have made mistakes. He tells us in the Course, Son of God, you have not sinned, but you have been very much mistaken. And when I look back on what I have done wrong, right? Nobody is saying in the Course, Jesus certainly is not saying that we have not made mistakes that have really hurt ourselves and hurt others. He tells us frightened people can be vicious. He tells us that figures in a dream could be hateful and vicious. So this is not saying that we have not done things like that, but we don't call it sinful. We don't feel guilty. We recognize we made a mistake, and we recognize the pain that that mistake has caused us and others. That is the basis of genuine remorse. I look at what I've done, I say, I never want to go back to that horrific place of darkness again. I want to let go of my past. I recognize I made a mistake. I realize I did it out of fear, not because I'm inherently evil. And it's out of that recognition which is the heart of forgiveness. It's that gentle kindness that Jesus is always offering to us as a different way of approaching ourselves in the world. It's that true remorse that allows us to look at what we have done and say, I don't ever want to do that again. And that ensures that we won't do it again. It delivers us into the holy instant in which there is no past, there's no guilt-driven present, and there's no fear of the future. And it's in that holy instant that remorse has its birth and gently gives way to true forgiveness that says, I will never attack myself or anyone else again. And that's when the peace that Jesus has been holding out to us in our minds is allowed to be itself and to flower and to inform everything in our lives now and in the future.